going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Kevin Jackowitz. This is the Kaged Review, and this is a review for The Walking Dead Season 9, Episode 6. And this is like taking place, you're looking at 5-6 years after the loss of Rick Grimes. It was going to be really interesting for me to see what they did with the show after Rick's departure. And I wasn't disappointed. I really was not. There was a few new characters introduced, and you got your first taste of the Whisperers, so I thought that was cool. So we start out with Michonne. She's doing a monologue, and she's talking about how, you know, she's trying to go on and cope with Rick being gone. And it's like she's actually talking to Rick. And through that, you get little snippets of the world now, 6 years after everything that's happened. You see Carol and Ezekiel. They're living together, sleeping together. Carol's got her hair much longer. Daryl is kind of a lone wolf now. He's doing his own thing. He's not really with anybody at this point. And so they start with that, and then you get the continuation of the last episode where you see Rosita and a couple of the community members are screaming for Judith. Judith pops up with all these new people that she found. And that was kind of cool because there was a big debate about what they should do, because apparently the new rules are no new people come in, which is exactly the opposite of what Rick was trying to do. You get a conversation after that with Carol and Jerry. Jerry saying, you know, you're the queen now. You guys have Henry as the prince. They've kind of adopted Henry as their son. Ezekiel and Carol have. And then there was this like big pipe blow, this big explosion while they were talking. And so they run and this water pipe blew, and Henry's there fixing it. So he's kind of mechanically inclined. And then Ezekiel is like, you know, good job. And Henry's like, we need resources and the people that know what they're doing. So there was a little friction there between Henry and Ezekiel, but Henry, you know, they're showing him to be a very proud, respectful young man. Then you get the new people. They come into Alexandria, and it was funny because Michonne shows up, and she's like, what are these people doing here? And she's very offset on anybody new coming into Alexandria now, which is, again, everything opposite of what they were doing before Rick disappeared. And one of the key points there was like Judith finds a toy cop that Michonne had pulled out of a van at the beginning of the show. One of the snippets under Michonne's monologue was Michonne herself going into this van that was covered by debris, and she finds this old Western style cop that really reminds you of Rick. And so she put it in her pouch, and it dropped out of her pouch when she was talking to the new people in Alexandria, and Judith picks it up. So you go back to Ezekiel, Henry, and Carol. Ezekiel is sending Henry off to Hilltop because he's going to train with somebody, and Carol is going to go with him. And Ezekiel was thinking, you know, all these reasons why he shouldn't go. But then Carol's like, you know what, it just needs to happen. So you get the new people at Alexandria after that. They're talking in front of a council that Alexandria has set up. It's, you know, the people that have been there and contributed the most. And so they've developed this kind of, you know, checks and balances system within the community so that one person doesn't have the overall vote. Which I did like that. I think seeing stuff like that is important. And the big thing that comes out of that is, A, everybody's very wary, not just Michonne, but Michonne takes it an extra step. And she tells Magna, one of the newcomers, to drop this hidden knife she has. It was a belt buckle you pull apart and there's a blade there. And it reveals that Magna has been in prison at one point, because she's got a prison tattoo on her hand that she was trying to cover up. So very confrontational. Michonne is just very off-putting. And that's the one complaint I have about this episode, because before this, like, the whole thing with Michonne was that she was backing Rick up and building this new community and putting all the people together and working together. And now she's just completely 180'd. And I wasn't a big fan of that, but other than that, it was a great show. Then you get Gabriel and Rosita. Gabriel's trying to figure out a way to expand their communications, and Rosita says that she will help make that happen, and then kisses Gabriel. So apparently they've had a relationship for however long, and you're seeing it here for the first time. And then you get Carol and Henry. They are on their way to Hilltop, and there is a trap set by the Saviors. They spring a trap, and it turns out to be Jed. Jed is the guy that was excommunicated from Alexandria, the Hilltop area, the bridge. He was one of the guys causing a lot of problems. So, after that, Rosita and Eugene, they are on a water tower, and they're putting, this device that helps extend the communications distance that they have. And it has to be high up. So Eugene's up there placing that. And after that, you have Sadiq. I really like this part because Sadiq's helping Yumiko, I think her name is one of the newcomers, and Magna's there. And then Luke, another newcomer who I really like, is having a conversation with Sadiq, and he's like, were you here at the beginning? And Sadiq's like, no, they found me. And he's like, but things were different back then. And Luke's like, what changed? And they have this nice little back and forth there. So you come back to Carol, Henry, and the Saviors, who's led by Jed. And Jed's like, I remember you saving me, so I'm going to give you a pass here. And I'm going to do you the same courtesy. I'm going to let you walk away from this, but we're taking your stuff. And Carol's like, fine, take it. And Jed's like, I think I'll take the rock on your hand too, because she's got a wedding ring now. That really pissed Henry off. Henry attacks Jed. Jed throws him to the ground. And Carol kind of covers up Henry so that it ends there and just tells him to take the ring. And that's where it leaves off there. Then you get Judith, who is trying to figure out some math problems with Negan. And so Judith and Negan, you see this kind of weird bond starting there. Right after that, you've got Eugene, Rosita, they're kind of finishing up, and then Eugene, he's about to come down off the water tower, turns around and there's a herd coming at them. Herd of zombies. So he yells at Rosita. Eugene tries to scale down the ladder real quick, and he has like an extension ladder set up to reach the ladder on the water tower because there's still a big gap there. He accidentally kicks that down, so he has to jump and screws up his knee. And that's, where they change sequence. And then you have Magna, which is one of the newcomers, with the other newcomers, and I don't have everybody's names yet, but I know Luke is one, Yumika or something like that is another one, and then there's two more that I don't really have pegged. But they're all having a debate about Magna keeping a blade. They're saying that, you might have ruined our chances of staying here. And Magna's saying, well, I didn't know what was going to happen, so I wanted to make sure I had something to fall back on. Which makes sense on both accounts, honestly. And then you get a really, really cool scene where you see the Saviors, led by Jed. They're all asleep in the middle of the night. And it pans away, and then you see everything covered in gas, and there's an empty gas can. And there's Carol with a match. And Jed wakes up, and he's like, I didn't do anything to you, blah, blah, blah. I'm not coming after you. And Carol was like, it would have been okay if you hadn't hurt my kid. And Jed's like, you'll never see me again. And Carol just so nonchalantly just says, I know, and throws a match and lights everybody on fire. It was a great scene. I actually really liked it. So Jed's dead. Then you get Magna, Michonne, Judith. Like, Magna, at first she's got a blade in her hand. It looks like she's going to try to walk in and do something to Michonne, which is, of course, a bad idea. But then she stops because she sees Michonne with a kid. And that makes her second guess herself. She goes up, knocks on the door, hands Michonne the blade, and she says, I've done terrible things, you're right. And Michonne's like, I have too. And so there's kind of their first kind of connection there. So you get Rosita and Eugene. Right after that, they're running away. Eugene, he can't really walk. He's hobbling on one leg and a crutch, which is actually a shovel. And he's telling Rosita to keep going, and he'll try to ward off the zombies. Rosita just grabs him, and they start running again. Then you get a real small clip with Carol and Henry. Henry apologizes to Carol for being kind of rude. And then he looks down and notices that Carol has the ring on her hand again. And so the realization was that she had a plan all along. And then they run into Daryl, which is apparently she was taking this big detour. Like, you know, Henry's like, this is nowhere near where we need to go. And Carol is like, just keep your eyes on the road. And then out pops Daryl. And she's like, hey, you need a ride, stranger? Daryl smiles and kind of cuts to the next scene, which is the newcomers. There's been this debate about whether they should stay or whether they should, the community should send the newcomers away. Well, it sounds like they're going to send the newcomers away. Michonne pops up, and she decides that she's going to take them over to Hilltop, where they could probably stay. And so Michonne offers to take them over there personally. So it's a nice middle ground. She's not exactly leaving them to their own devices, but they're not staying in Alexandria. So there you go. And then the show ends back with Eugene and Rosita. They're on the ground in the ditch. This part you see in the trailer where they're covering themselves with mud. They've got a huge pack of walkers. And then you hear the whispers for the first time, and they're having a conversation. It's like, where are they? You know, they got to be close. Don't let them get away. And you can see Eugene's kind of freaking out because he hears the conversation in the walker pack. So it was kind of interesting. It was really, really, really cool. So that's where they left off, and I thought it was a good place to leave off. Because you've already introduced Magna, who is the daughter of the leader of the Whisperers, Alpha, and now you've had the first kind of introduction to the Whisperers themselves. So I think that it's going to be really cool in the next couple episodes to see where this progresses, because you have to believe that next episode you're going to get a full-on introduction of the Whisperers. And we all know what happened with the first introduction of the Saviors. So, very, very cool. I really like where they're going with this. I'm not the biggest fan of Michonne's kind of backwards momentum here. Like, you know, she was all about getting everybody to work together and form a community, and now it's just like, leave us alone, we don't want anybody new. Which I think is kind of counterproductive. Really cool show though. I'm going to give, I mean, it's not as big, I think, as maybe the last couple, on a couple of accounts, but really good. I really did like it. I thought they did some great stuff. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I thought it was pretty strong. I liked it a lot. I like the fact that they're still building character, and, you know, it feels like they're building to something momentous, and I really hope that it is the case, because it would be a damn shame if it feels like it's building to something and nothing major happens. So I'm hoping that something major does come about. So that's where I'm at with it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, hit the like button, subscribe, and share. My name is Kevin Jackowitz. Kaged Nation, out.